Imagine you're just scrolling through a forum, right?
Yeah.
A place strictly reserved for pop culture, like celebrity gossip, red carpet breakdowns, who wore what.
Right. Totally standard internet stuff.
Exactly. You're reading debates about pop star breakups, and then suddenly you stumble on this highly technical, multi-paragraph astrological breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Explaining exactly why the president's son is, the ultimate political troll. I mean, welcome to the modern internet.
It is just, well, it's a wild collision of worlds, honestly. We're seeing high-stakes geopolitics fed directly through, like, the meat grinder of reality television commentary.
Yeah, and that collision, that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a massive 44,000 upvote thread from Reddit, specifically the War Pop Culture chat community.
Right.
The inciting incident here is a post titled, Hunter Biden mockingly nominates Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize for ending the same war with Iran 38 times.
Quite the title.
Right. But before we get into the weeds of all this digital chaos, because this obviously involves the Bidens and the Trumps, let's establish right up front for you listening. We do not have a dog in this fight.
Definitely not.
We aren't endorsing anyone's politics, and we aren't, validating the specific viewpoints of the Reddit users we're discussing. We're looking at this purely as digital anthropologists. Our goal is just to impartially report and unpack how this very specific online community processes political provocation.
Yeah, and to understand the reaction, you really have to understand the room.
Exactly. Set the scene for us.
So pop culture chat is not your standard free-for-all political debate stage. It is a highly curated environment.
Right.
This particular thread was marked guest list only.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, meaning only vetted, approved members could even participate. And the community rules are incredibly specific. They note that the space is shaped by BIPOC, meaning Black, Indigenous, and people of color, as well as LGBTQ+ and women-led voices.
So it's very intentional.
Exactly. It's designed fundamentally as a heavily moderated safe space for respectful pop culture analysis, which makes it an impeccably unique lens for a political story.
Right. Which means you aren't getting standard cable news pundits weighing in here. You're getting an audience that is totally primed to analyze behavior through the lens of, like, character arcs.
Yes.
Celebrity messiness, entertainment value. So let's look at the actual event that kicked this off.
The tweet.
Right. Hunter Biden facetiously nominates Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize on social media. And the joke itself is this sarcastic jab at Trump's foreign policy claims regarding Iran.
Yeah.
But Users Variant points out a mechanical detail that totally elevates this from a standard political insult to a viral spectacle. They noted, and I'm quoting here, "For me, it's not just the fact that he wrote all this, it's that he made it a point to tag Trump as well. I love mess."
I love mess. That is so telling, because tagging an opponent in a post like this, it fundamentally changes the digital geometry of the insult.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in traditional political discourse, figures talk about each other to the press, right? Or to their own followers.
Oh, sure. It's indirect.
Exactly. But by typing the @ symbol and actually linking the account, you are forcing a direct digital confrontation.
It's the digital equivalent of, like, CCing the CEO on a spicy company-wide email.
Yes.
Just to ensure the chaos lands. Like grabbing the microphone at a corporate retreat, roasting the CEO, and then physically walking over to hand them the microphone.
Right. You are demanding a reaction at that point.
And what's fascinating is how this specific community views the person delivering the insult. Like user PM MEURHEB Dimples, great name by the way, captures the prevailing mood. They say they love that Hunter is using his status as a non-political figure to just take the clothes off.
Because the community is identifying this massive asymmetry in modern political warfare.
Oh, so
They look at the current political landscape and they perceive one side as being entirely unburdened by traditional shame or decorum. So when you feel your opponent is shameless, playing by the old rules of, polite statesman-like conduct.
it feels useless.
Yeah, it feels like bringing a clipboard to a knife fight.
Wow, yeah. They see him as the designated brawler because he holds no office. He doesn't rely on donor money, right? He doesn't have to worry about poll numbers in swing states. So he's completely insulated from the usual political consequences of acting out. There's another user, Sotrick, who argues that given the years of intense public scrutiny from the Trump camp, Hunter, quote, deserves some payback.
Notice the vocabulary there, though.
Right.
Payback.
Right.
They aren't analyzing this as some strategy to win over undecided voters on foreign policy. They're analyzing it as a revenge arc in a television show. It is deeply personalized.
But wait, I have to push back on this framing a bit because it feels, I know, incredibly convenient to rebrand your worst, most embarrassing public scandals as some sort of edgy, radical accountability. Yeah.
Like, is this community just falling for a calculated PR spin? Because leaning into the messiness almost feels like a crisis management strategy when you basically have absolutely no secrets left to hide.
That is the crucial tension of this entire thread.
Right.
Like, is it a boardroom strategy or is it a genuine psychological defense mechanism? And the Reddit users actually tackle this head on. They look at how he handles his very public history of addiction.
Oh, okay.
There's an exchange in the thread between users Annie Stoodles and Buffy's Manycoats, and they're discussing that rumor about cocaine being found in a White House tour group area.
Right, I remember that.
So the story goes that when political opponents accused Hunter of leaving the drugs there, his alleged response was a joke that he would, quote, never forget his drugs.
Oh my God. User Buffy's Manycoats replies that the accusation was so stupid, but admits the alleged response made them genuinely laugh.
Yeah.
But it's such a dark, cynical joke to make about your own highly publicized struggle with substance abuse, you know? It is, and that darkness is exactly why it resonates as authentic to them rather than calculated. A user named DragonFruitFew5542 provides what might be the most profound psychological insight of the whole discussion, actually.
What do they say?
Well, they mention that they're personally in addiction recovery, and they point out that people in recovery develop a highly specialized, intense brand of self-deprecating humor.
Oh, that makes sense.
They write, if there's one thing I've learned about being in recovery, it's that we've got jokes. They describe being in support meetings, like literally crying from laughing so hard at this incredibly bleak, self-aware humor.
So to someone with that shared lived experience, that tour group drug joke doesn't read as a slick political operative trying to spin a narrative.
Not at all.
It reads as the raw, unfiltered coping mechanism of an addict who has survived, like the darkest parts of their own psychology.
Exactly. The community respects him not because he's perfect, but because he owns it. It represents a total inversion of the classic political cover-up.
All right, because traditional politicians get caught in a scandal, they deny it, deflect.
Issue those sanitized apologies.
Exactly. But this community, as user Empty Hellebore puts it, respects that he owned his mistakes. User Ironia Rex calls recovery Hunter Biden funny as hell. And user Foster Pups claims he has a, quote, massively improved personality.
By owning the absolute worst things about himself, he completely neutralizes his opponent's leverage.
Yeah.
You can't blackmail or shame someone who is already loudly broadcasting their flaws to the entire internet.
You really can't.
Yeah.
But human nature dictates that once we accept someone's flaws, we immediately try to categorize them, right? We want to map out where those flaws come from.
Oh, definitely.
Which brings us to how a pop culture forum actually attempts to diagnose this behavior. They aren't using political science here.
No!
They are using pop culture canonization. The nicknames they generate are just a masterclass in modern digital shorthand.
They really are. Give some examples.
Okay, so user Dorothy's Bornaclux1 calls him Dark Brandon Jr., mapping him onto the existing internet meme of his father's, laser-eyed alter ego.
Nice.
Then user Esternafil compares his lack of filter to America's Craig Ferguson, referencing the former late-night host who famously used his own sobriety and chaotic energy to dismantle the traditional talk show format.
That's a deep cut, but accurate.
Right. But the absolute peak of this categorization comes from user academic drag 742. They describe Hunter Biden as being spiritually Kendall Roy and Fred Durst's Red Cap.
Oh man, that specific combination is incredibly dense with cultural meaning.
Unpack that for us.
Okay, so Kendall Roy is the tragic, deeply flawed, substance-abusing son from the HBO show Succession. He represents the suffocating weight of a powerful family legacy, right?
Yeah.
He's constantly oscillating between these desperate attempts to be taken seriously and then spectacular, embarrassing public self-sabotage.
And then you smash that tragic, high-drama Shakespearean archetype into Fred Durst's red baseball cap. For those who don't know, Fred Durst, the frontman of Limp Bizkit, he represents the absolute peak of late 90s, unapologetic, aggressive frat boy trolling. Like he's the patron saint of breaking things just to hear the glass shatter.
So by merging Kendall Roy's familial tragedy with Fred Durst's abrasive trolling, the internet just creates this hyper-specific, instantly recognizable psychological profile.
It's brilliant shorthand. But, of course, the community doesn't stop at pop culture references.
Of course not.
They go a step further into attempting to literally map his psyche using astrology. This was the moment in the research where I realized we'd completely left the realm of political commentary.
Oh, we were long gone.
Users Don't 6086 Reaper and Stuff Is Already Dead decide the only logical way to explain his behavior is to pull up his astrological birth chart.
As one does.
Right. They note he is an Aquarius sun, a Capricorn moon, and a Cancer rising. But then they start throwing around this heavy astrological jargon to explain his political trolling.
And for listeners who don't spend their weekends plotting planetary alignments, the terminology here can sound like a foreign language. But look at the mechanics of what they're doing.
Yeah, explain the mechanics.
They point to his 11th house, Mars in Aries. In astrological frameworks, Mars represents aggression, conflict, action. Aries is a fiery, impulsive sign. And the 11th house is the sphere of large groups, social networks, and the public collective.
Okay, wait. So an aggressive impulse, fueled by fire, playing out in the arena of social networks.
Yep.
That perfectly describes logging onto a massive social platform to pick a fight with a former president.
It's spot on. And then they bring up that his Uranus is trine MC. The MC stands for midheaven, which represents your public image, reputation, career path. Uranus represents sudden disruption, rebellion, chaos.
Okay.
And a trine is a harmonious flowing angle between 2 points. So, translated from astrology to English, they are arguing that his intrinsic nature dictates that sudden, chaotic rebellion actually benefits his public standing.
Which perfectly explains why a user would conclude that he is destined to, quote, air out his wounds and truths on the internet and fucking attack.
Right.
But what fascinates me isn't whether the astrology is real or not. It's that this highly secular modern online community is using an ancient mystical framework to rationalize political chaos. Like, in a world where nothing makes sense anymore, they're literally looking to the stars to find an underlying logic for why the president's son acts like an internet troll.
It provides a comforting illusion of order, I think. If the chaos is written in the stars, it's not just random societal decay.
Right.
It's a predetermined character trait playing out exactly as designed.
And this is where it gets truly wild.
Yeah.
This deep dive into planetary alignments triggers the most spectacular, unpredictable derailment of the entire 44,000 comment thread.
Yes.
The transition is so jarring, it feels like a glitch in the Matrix. We are deep in the weeds analyzing the astrological justification for geopolitical trolling, right? And user Bambi Bucks reads the words Mars placement and suddenly hijacks the thread with her own bizarre personal crisis.
Yes.
We have to talk about the swamp.
Oh my gosh, yes. The pivot from analyzing the Biden family to analyzing a rural Florida swamp is the truest representation of internet culture in this entire deep dive.
It really is. So Bambi Bucks jumps in to complain that her boyfriend of 11 months just dropped a massive relationship-altering bombshell on her. Out of nowhere, he expects her enthusiastic attendance at an annual week-long Revolutionary War reenactment.
They're not just an afternoon.
No, not a quick trip to a museum. This is a week in a literal swampy field in rural Florida with his high school friends and their wives. And the details she provides are agonizingly specific. Yeah. She is furious because her mandated role for this week-long excursion is to simply, quote, tend to the tent while he battles.
Just incredible.
And the detail that absolutely sends the thread over the edge is that her boyfriend generously informed her, quote, some of the women do old-fashioned sounding accents for the week, but you don't have to if you don't want. Right. And the astrologer user immediately replies, diagnosing this boyfriend's bizarre swamp battle obsession as an obvious 9th house Mars placement, which supposedly dictates weird, aggressive travel or philosophical crusades.
Naturally.
And just like that, the entire massive political thread abandons Hunter Biden to offer relationship advice and support to a woman trying to escape a Florida swamp. It's like going to a library to research foreign policy and ending up in a relationship counseling session. What does this chaotic tangent tell you about how we consume information online today?
We really have to look at the underlying algorithmic and psychological mechanisms that allow a conversation to pivot that drastically. This is what media theorists refer to as the flattening of content.
I really want to dig into that.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the medium of the scrolling feed is fundamentally changing how we process empathy, how we process information. Like when I open a social media app, I'm subjected to a literal slot machine of context collapse.
That is the exact mechanism. A traditional newspaper categorizes the world for you. You actively choose to open the world news section or the entertainment section, the lifestyle section.
Right.
Your brain has a moment to physically and emotionally prepare for the tone of the information you are about to receive.
But on a digital feed, there is no physical separation. You scroll down using the exact same motion of your thumb. You see a terrifying headline about a potential nuclear escalation.
Swipe.
You see a viral video of a cat falling off a counter.
Swipe.
You see a deeply personal story about a woman whose boyfriend wants her to churn butter in a swamp. The interface is identical. The pixels look the same.
Because the delivery mechanism is identical, our biological response begins to flatten. The brain simply cannot sustain the massive spikes in cortisol required to jump from global dread to interpersonal comedy every 3 seconds.
That makes total sense.
So it equalizes everything. The political drama and the relationship drama become the exact same raw material. They're both just content feeding the algorithm. They're both just entertainment to be dissected, diagnosed with pop psychology or astrology, and memed.
So to this community, Hunter Biden tagging Donald Trump in a Nobel Prize joke isn't a historically significant political moment.
No.
It's just this week's episode of a really dramatic reality show, and Bambi Bucks and her Revolutionary War reenactor boyfriend are just the B-plot of that exact same episode.
Exactly. And that reality show framework fundamentally alters what the audience demands from the people on their screens.
Bringing this all together for you, the listener, this single Reddit thread serves as a massive flashing warning light for the future of public life. The traditional metrics of statesmanship, the carefully crafted press releases, the focus group-tested policies, the polite restraint they're losing their currency, at least among digitally native demographics.
The internet does not reward polite restraint. The algorithm cannot monetize a nuanced policy debate. The currency of the digital realm is radical authenticity, even if that authenticity is deeply flawed, abrasive, and messy.
Yeah.
The users in this thread are making it abundantly clear they would rather support a visible, acknowledged mess than a hidden, polished lie.
They don't want the sanitized political avatar.
Yeah.
They want the guy who owns his worst mistakes, leans into the joke, and swings the metaphorical folding chair. They want the Kendall Roy energy.
Which leaves us with a critical, somewhat unsettling thought to mull over. We are watching internet communities and voters actively reward reality TV-style trolling, recovery humor, self-deprecation, and aggressive digital provocation because it feels raw and genuine.
Right.
But what does that mean for the ecosystem as a whole? If we reward this, what happens to the traditional, serious, policy-focused politicians who are actually trying to govern?
That's a great point. Like, in a world where the feed flattens everything into entertainment and the audience demands a punchline just to stay engaged, will a politician who refuses to play the troll even register on our radar anymore?
Exactly.
If you aren't providing the drama of a swamp reenactment or a digital feud, do you even exist in the modern digital public square?
That is the defining question for the next decade of our discourse.
It really is. It seems we have permanently left the era of quiet, polite political debate. The guardrails are down, the stars are dictating the strategy, and the gloves are completely off. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep an eye on your feeds, stay out of the comment sections if you can help it, and whatever you do, avoid the Florida swamps.